Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Plan B Success. We have Lloyd Ross with us from Australia today. Now,
Hey,
Lloyd,
Rajiv.
hey, hey, Lloyd. Now, Lloyd is a lawyer, former lawyer, and he has other businesses that we will get into shortly. But the interesting fact about Lloyd was one of the things that I found was three university degrees: biomedical sciences, business, and law. I don't know if there's anything else for you to cover there, but that kind of covers where the world is today and where it's going. Well, Lloyd actually dabbled in the corporate space, but then he decided to go down the business route. He has a book that he calls Money Grows on Trees. We'll find out about that. So he's all about business, money, success, entrepreneurship, mindset, all of that. So welcome, Lloyd.
Thanks for having me on, Rajiv. I'm happy to be here and I'm excited. Thank you for the introduction. Don't know how I ended up here, but I love it. It's great.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your story?
Sure. What I love about your podcast, first and foremost, is that it's called Plan B. And that was really always on my mind when I was growing up, especially when I hit corporate. I was always looking for a plan B. But just a summary, I was like everyone else, most others. I came out of school at 17 and went into university, and I did biomed science to go as a pre-med thing to go into medicine because that's what I enjoyed. I loved science. And then I went overseas and came back and had a bit of a change of heart, got into business, and then had a very persuasive father. And he said, look, why don't you think about doing law? So I went and did law, became a lawyer, got admitted to the Supreme Court, and then did that for a very, very, very short amount of time because I had a personality clash with being a lawyer. And then I thought, well, I need to get a job. So I went and got a job in corporate real estate and development in the Middle East, which was at age 24, was a really good opportunity. And then, yeah, I mean, it was great. Like, I was earning some pretty good money. I was learning some good things, being mentored by some great people, smart people, working on some incredible projects, including the Formula One Grand Prix circuit in Abu Dhabi,
Mhm.
and some theme park and hotels and developments. And I learned a lot about finance there. Embarked on my CFA charter, which is a really, really significant financial degree. I started that when I was there because all I really knew to get ahead for my plan B was study. That was my plan B
Right.
because that's the world I grew up in. And it's like, study more to earn more. And this is before the days really of social media marketing and digital entrepreneurship as we know it. So what happened was I'm in this job and I was commuting to work an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back every day for almost 5 years. And I just looked around one day and realized that the men that I was working with around age 60, 65 were doing the same thing. And it didn't inspire me. I just didn't feel like I was put on earth to do that. And so that thus began my plan B plan, like looking for my plan B. And what happened was I ended up resigning from my corporate role. I saved up some money. So I'm always a big advocate of saving and having that significant nest egg there because it gives you so much flexibility to take risks and do different things. So I resigned from my corporate role. And that's the last time I ever got paid a wage was
Mhm.
back in 2012. So it was 8 years ago or 9 years ago. And I went into real estate sales and marketing with my dad, who's been an entrepreneur his whole life, because I wanted to learn selling, and it was commission only. So I would only ever get paid when I made a sale, and so that was also quite a risky endeavor. So 6 months went by, I didn't make any money, then bang, made some money, and then I learned the skills, skilled up, and I was doing okay, making some reasonably good money, and enjoyed it to a large extent because I had a lot of autonomy, wasn't getting told what to do, didn't have a long commute. So it was a good step in the right direction. In Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, I moved from the employee to the
Mhm.
self-employed bracket. And
Mhm.
so I was a bit happier. But then I thought, well, I really need to get some like steady income. That would be great because it's hard to, I don't know, build a family around, I don't know what I'm going to get paid next. So my sister introduced me to to some network marketing products, and I didn't really ever think would be involved in network marketing. And they worked so well for me. I started helping a few friends with it, and we started getting paid. My wife and I started getting paid. So what actually happened was our plan B income was a network marketing business model. And what was fascinating about that was that we were both working 6 days a week in our corporate type job scenario roles, and we were earning this second income from our phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought straight away, this is my plan B. Because what if something happens in our property business and I don't have any income? So it was always in the back of my mind. And so I thought, what if we could just earn an extra $600, $700, $800 a week from our phone? What if I was to place that and put that into an index fund or an exchange traded fund or some shares that paid a dividend? And over time, we could make millions of dollars in the stock market. And that was my objective, to actually retire myself through passive income asset. And it grew dramatically. So within about 4 years, I'd left my role, my wife left her job, and it now is our main core business, which we run from our bedroom, which is fascinating. So outside that, at the age of 24, my plan C income was
Mm-hmm.
I got I got started in stocks. I read a Warren Buffett book called The Snowball, and it just got me on this journey of learning the stock market. And so I started investing back then, and now just this year I've surpassed $1 million in our share portfolio, which
Awesome.
produces which produces a passive income.
Mm-hmm.
Our plan C income of around about $40,000 dollars a year, which is amazing. So I don't know. That's my journey so far to date, and I've kind of covered it all in my book, which we'll talk about probably in a bit. But that's how it happened. That's the journey.
It's pretty fascinating to kind of look at your background, right? You
Yeah,
started off thinking you're going to become a doctor.
yeah,
You thought, that's not for me, and then
mm,
you did business, which is I think where your heart was, and then your typical scenario where your dad said, "Hey, go do law." You did that. You tried it. You tried your hand at it. You didn't
yes,
find that you suited that either, and then you came out, and then you actually took the risk of leaving the country and going to a place like the Middle East to
mm,
sell real estate in a totally foreign land. That's pretty amazing in terms of some of the risks that you've taken and kind of jumped in blind, I'm sure.
yeah,
um,
yes,
and I think that's the thrill of it, right? That's the thrill of thrill and adventure of life as it is. So when you actually made that change, right? I get the point up till you listened to your dad, you went and you did your law degree, and then you actually tried practicing law. But that
yeah,
shift that you made, so there's this entire aspect of prestige and everything associated with what you're trying to do on the law side, and
yeah,
your heart is not right there. Now you have to do the family convincing. You got to convince yourself, you got to convince your family, and you're jumping into something which you have no
yeah,
idea about. You're literally restarting your career. How was
yeah.
that experience?
It's a really good question. God, my dad must have just been like, "What are you doing? Just pick something, son," But I had this unquenched thirst for waiting to find something I really loved. And because one thing I was not fussed about and didn't ever occur to me actually, I was not one for the prestige. I was not one for like the badge of honor. I'm a lawyer. Look at, I'm doing this and this is why I'm a
Hmm.
partner. And it just never, I was always about happiness. I was always about inside myself, like, am I happy doing this? Is this going to be good for me and the planet and other people? And can I get some value and fulfillment, I guess would be the word out of this. And so
Hmm.
until I found that, I just kept changing. But what happened when I left law here was that I wanted a bit more of a thrilling adventure, not just to be part of a local law firm and work my way up. It didn't float my boat. But what happened was I spoke to a guy. My dad did help me actually. He said, "Look, there's a fellow that I know. You should have a chat with him. He actually knows some opportunities in the Middle East with real estate and doing what you want to do. You should have a chat." So I called him up.
Hmm.
He really helped me. He actually put me in touch with a guy who literally recruited me. I did a phone interview in Sydney with the biggest developer in Abu Dhabi,
Hmm.
multi-billions in projects. And I was 24, and I remember in my apartment in Sydney, just thinking, I really need this. I really need this job. This is me. It sounds perfect. And so I did it, and thankfully, it was like this breakthrough moment. I got the job, and I jumped on this plane, go to Abu Dhabi. They fly me over, and I get there. I'm like, where there? I didn't even know where Abu Dhabi was, Rajiv, on the map. I didn't know where it was. And so I got there, and I knew it was a great company. So I knew that I'd find some mentors within there, which is great. I would get paid. But anyway, so I'm 21, no construction experience, no
Mhm.
experience, and not that much experience. University doesn't give you a tremendous amount of
Right.
skills, right? So I'm in my hard hat and we're in this car and we're crossing this bridge into the sixth largest project in the world called Yas Island. And we're over this bridge and there's 50,000 workers there. It is like a city. And I'm here, 24 from Australia, little town. How did I get here? The talk you talked about before, like jumping in blind, that was like, I'm blind and I don't know what's going to happen, but I knew, work out. I'm pretty versatile and I can pick things up pretty fast. So it worked out in the end. Yeah.
And when did you get back to doing real estate in Australia?
So what happened was I was getting paid pretty well. I was moving up pretty well in the organization, and the GFC took the wind out of the sails of pretty well all developers in the world. And the only thing that saved us was that we were charged by the Abu Dhabi government, which is obviously an oil economy, tremendous amounts of money.
Right.
And they backed the company to build the Formula One circuit in Abu Dhabi. So we had this mandate to finish that. And that's what kept the company just plugging along and moving. And so at 2010, they started to make people redundant and started chopping it. Now they kept me because I was young, I was a worker, I was not paid as much as the big guys. So they kept me on. And I ended up playing golf, going to the movie. Like, there was no work on. So I was doing all these fun things and getting paid, but it was just it didn't satisfy my yearning for progress and,
Right.
All that stuff. So what happened was I called my dad and I said, listen, he's like, wow, what's going on over there? It sounds exciting. I said, it's great. It's been great for the last few years, but the GFC's kind of wiped it out. And I'm just like, I'm ready for something that's going to challenge me. And he said to me, well, look, we're doing some really cool things back here. Do you want to come and get into business with me? And I said, sounds great. And I'd saved up enough money to fund my way into that. And there was no wage waiting for me. It was fully on, commission only. You don't perform, you don't get paid. And so it was like an apprenticeship with my dad. He's an ultra sales guy. So I was like, this is what I was buying. I was buying that skill set. And then I did. I got on a plane, moved back with my now wife, who was born in Dubai, and got back. And the company, my dad's business, was in a really big, it was in tatters. It had been decimated by the GFC. So what I realized I was getting into was like, I don't know if this is a great decision, but we built it back up and it was like a baptism of fire, learning that business.
Mm-hmm. So, the other thing that you mentioned in terms of plan B and plan C, right? So we live
Yeah.
in a world today where it's changed so much. You're right. There was a time when it was all about, hey, get the next degree, get the next degree.
Yeah.
And there's a big disconnect between your academics and what you really set out to do, right? They're two different things. You could have studied one thing, but all you have to do is take out the common sense. Take the common sense with you in order to take it to wherever you work and whatever you do. I think that's the only benefit of education, unless it's very technical,
Yes.
that you're trying to get. That's where we are today. And today
Yeah.
it's all about the gig economy and people wanting to work for themselves. And like you said, passive income. If you're someone who says, okay, I'm going to subscribe to a job, I'm going to get my paycheck, and I'm going to live my life away, you're never going to get to retirement, right? That's the truth of today.
Yeah, absolutely. Never. And I think people think they're going to be okay in this late 70s and early 80s, but my grandparents are not okay. Like they can't work. So they thankfully they have a nest egg, but if you don't, you're a lot of trouble.
So, how did all that happen for you? The plan B and the plan C. Were you always thinking about something,
Yeah.
or did opportunities just come your way?
What's interesting about my journey is I've taken a lot of risks, as a lot of people see it as risks, career risks and so forth. But I was in my 20s then doing that, and I had no family. So one of the things I learned was if I didn't get married too fast or get a mortgage too fast or have children too quickly, I could take a lot of risks. And that's why I kind of delayed all those rite of passages in today's society. I delayed them because you can't take that many risks if you've got all those responsibilities, I feel. So whilst I took risks, I'm always also quite a risk averse person when it comes to like planning. I never want to be in a position where I needed to ask for money. That would just be like, I would be shamed. It's weird, but it's not me. I'm fiercely independent. So the plan B and plan C was about, well, if I'm taking these risks and something happens, I need to have some form of income. Or I loved the choice that it gave me. Like when I had money in Abu Dhabi, when I'd saved it up, when everyone else was buying Range Rovers and living in nice places, I was just driving a Toyota Yaris and living in a not so nice place with some friends. And I saved. And then what happened was when bad things happened in the economy, my friends couldn't leave their job. They were stuck because they were living paycheck to paycheck. And I never wanted to be in that position. So that's where the plan B and plan C came from. Plan B was like the side hustle. I was thinking, well, I've got my job. I have capacity on the weekends and evenings to do something else. So I was always open to a secondary income stream, some sort of side hustle. But then the plan C, the shares was like, well, if I'm going to make some money, I need to learn how to deploy that capital and give that money a job so that it produces more money. It just made absolute sense to me. Like, why would you spend money on nice cars when you can just buy something that produces more income? I wanted freedom. I didn't want a car,
Right. Absolutely.
That's where it came from. Yeah. Wanting security.
So your book, Money Grows on Trees, why is it called Money Grows on Trees, and what's it all about?
My book, there it is. Money Grows on Trees. So during the process of us building our network marketing business, which is our true passion, I love it. It's just so much fun. I noticed a lot of people in our organization and in the industry, and it just at large, they just got me out of, because I had spent a lot of time with quite high performers, people who had done multiple degrees at university, GMs, directors, people who had big hitters in terms of career. So I was never around people who didn't really understand money. But what happened was when I came into network marketing, I was moved into more of a broad brushed or broad-based, this is the public, this is the most people now. This is most people, Lloyd. They didn't all have these, they didn't have the same opportunities, but this is most people in the world. And what I noticed was they didn't know anything about money. Not a thing. It was bizarre because I had read about money when I was like 16, 17. Robert Kiyosaki, I picked up books and it just made sense to me to learn about money. And they hadn't. And so I thought, wow, there's a real disconnect here with what they're trying to achieve building a side hustle business and their understanding of what they do with their money in their business. Like they just didn't have a clue. So I thought I really need to help. People were coming to me already saying, Lloyd, what do you think about this? What do you think? I'm like, well, at some point you become a bit of a bottleneck and you think, well, if I write a book and build a course, then they can read the book and they don't need to come to me anymore. So that's really what happened. And a friend of mine challenged me to write a book. And so the book is really all about, the first parts of it are about understanding your money mindset and your thermostat for how you behave around money. Because a lot of people are spenders and hoarders and avoiders and money monks where they don't even like money. And all that stuff in the book, the way people approach money is typically how they grew up. From their parents' influence, from their peers. And most parents said, you know what? Money doesn't grow on trees, Remember that one?
Right.
I'm not made of money, or money's the root of all evil. These even Disney, Scrooge, like Charles Dickens and the Scrooge character, he was rich.
Right.
And so there's this programming at a young age that we feel like, oh, if you're rich, you're baddie. So a lot of people avoid the topic of money. It's taboo. They also don't really even focus on it. So once I just go through that in the book, people go, wow, I didn't realize I was like that. And so their money mindset gets a bit of a flip and a shift. Then I talk about, hey, listen, you don't need 7 income streams to be a millionaire. We only have 3 and we became millionaires. So I talk in this about, hey, have your job. It's so important to have your plan A income. Let's not forget about that. That's really important. And I feel like your audience, it's okay that it's great you've got a job. I mean, if you have a job now, fantastic, great. But outside that, in the book, I talk about now get your side hustle in place, get your plan B income in place too at the same time. Because now in the world with affiliate marketing, network marketing, info products, Amazon FBA, Uber, there's so many different things you can do as a side hustle. But if you do that, you give yourself a $25,000 or $30,000 a year pay rise, right? Which is amazing. I don't think anyone's giving pay rises like that in the corporate world right now, across the board. Wage growth is almost zero. So I think that's the new wealth path. Job, plan A, side hustle, plan B. And then I even talk here about plan C. Make sure you're saving some of that capital and putting it into shares or property that's going to produce wealth and income for you. And I think if you have those 3 things set up and you focus there for the next 10 years, you'll do well.
Absolutely.
So
So how much of success mindset, what you talk about, a lot of the things is there needs to be a certain level of motivation. There needs to be a certain level of desire in order to be successful. So where
yeah,
does success mindset come into the picture for this?
that's a really good question. I think about this a lot because I mentor so many people, some who are tremendously successful and some who are just can't quite crack it, can't cut it, just don't have the eye of the tiger.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about when we mentor people, we help people. We have our business called the Side Hustle Secret, and we help people to build their side hustle, and obviously help them with money through the book and courses. But one thing I noticed is that we can only really help people succeed drastically when they are two things: hungry, where they have a burning desire, and
Mm-hmm.
they're coachable. So I think talking about success and what creates it is you have to have this self-drive or self-hunger to be successful, whatever it looks like to climb the corporate ladder or to start your own business or to become a millionaire or, it's something innate in you. I don't know. I don't know if you were born with it or it's developed. I don't know where it comes from. But if you have that, it's burning in you, it tends to drive you. And if you're coachable, which is the second part to the success formula, it means that when you have a mentor, you'll actually listen to them. And
Mm-hmm.
you can really shortcut your success when you are actually a coachable person, where you don't try and always reinvent the wheel, like just model success rather than try and, do everything yourself. So,
Absolutely.
hmm,
So
that's a
what do
good
you
question.
do for fun, Lloyd?
That's a great question. That is very funny, Rajiv. I wasn't prepared for that one. Let me have to think about that. So, God, I love doing this. I'm in my element right now with you talking about this. I love teaching and, I love business so much. Love mentoring, love selling. I don't know, this is my jam. I get most fulfillment right now doing this stuff. It's not work for me. So I guess that's my enjoyment for fun. For fun, this is what I do. I watch the stock market. I read the news. I do. My wife's probably going to kill me soon. But no, for fun, let me think. God, yesterday we went and played laser tag with my niece and nephew, and it was a Thursday midday. Can you believe that? We went on a school holidays and we played laser tag with my niece and nephew because we have financial freedom. And so I think it's important for the audience to know too, hey, listen, it's not always graft and work. It is for a large extent, but when you have a plan B and a plan C, you can do some cool stuff that no one else can do, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I love to read. Reading a couple books at the moment. Love to travel, but obviously we can't do a lot of that lately, So yeah, I think it's pretty sad, isn't it? I play golf sometimes, but I don't even like it. So.
Don't you do some marathons? I read that up.
Oh yeah, I thought you said have fun though.
That's not fun.
Okay, so last year was quite funny because I got involved. Funny how the world works actually. A friend of mine, I met him through network marketing. He said, Lloyd, I've got a boxing program. It's called the Rite of Passage. I help young men to build character through boxing program for 10 to 12 weeks, and then they have a boxing fight. And I was like, wow, that's great. He said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, what do you mean? Do you want me to help you influence it, build it? What do you want? And he said, I want you to do it. And I was like, what? Okay, I said yes, because I'd read David Goggins' book called Can't Hurt Me. And there's some things, Rajiv, you just can't learn in a book.
Right.
Strength of mind, adventure, hard things you can't learn in a book. So I'm not all about just learning in my room book. I go out and adventure, go through the world, right? Some things I've done are just like crazy. But this moment pops up where he's like, let's do the boxing program. So I'm like, this is crazy. Sounds like me. High risk, high return. So I jumped in, trained really hard, 4 a.m.s, 5 a.m.s every day, just training hard. It was the most intense cardio I've ever done in my life. If you think you're fit, do boxing, and then you realize you're not fit. And so I go in and I do it, and I come into this fight and I won my fight, 4 rounds, technical knockout or points. Sorry, I won it at the points, and a tremendous experience. One fight of the series, and couldn't. It was a breakthrough moment, and then I forged a great friendship with my friend who was the boxing program guy. His name's Gavin Top. He's a ex-professional boxer, was Australian title holder, number 12 in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what happened? I'm telling you this story is because when you do hard things, great things happen. And so I thrust myself into that. And so we're training, and I stayed training with him. I'm going to train again with him tomorrow morning. But I was there one training session. I started talking to the men about money. It just comes off my tongue. I just need to give value and teach. This is what I do. And so he said, you know what? I said, what? He goes, you're going to write a book. And I was like, okay. He said, you're going to do it in 4 weeks. So he pushed me. And I was like, okay. And he made it public. So I really had to write this book. And that's what compelled me. And I sat in my room and wrote it. Now, when the book was finished, we both did a book launch together. We did an event. He wrote a book called Rite of Passage. I wrote this. And then to get to the marathon part, he said to me, listen, let's do this 100-kilometer ultra marathon because it's hard. I was like, oh my God, I've never run more than 10 kilometers. I'm in. I'm in. It sounds ridiculous, but I'm in. So off we went. I've dragged my wife into it and her sister and Gavin's daughter. So there's 5 of us climbing these hills, and another buddy came in. So 6 of us climbing these hills, and like running 35 Ks to warm up or train. We had 10 weeks, Rajiv, to train for this thing. None of us had run a marathon, let alone 111-kilometer ultra marathon.
Wow.
4,500 elevation, huge. So we roll up to the start line, and I'm thinking to myself, what is going to happen to my body here? Can I get through this? And life is like a marathon, right? And that's partly why I wanted to do it, because I coach and teach so much. I thought it was a great metaphor. So we're on this marathon, and we go through, and we hit the 57-kilometer mark at dark. So we started at 6 a.m. in the morning. We got to the 57-kilometer checkpoint at 7 p.m. And my legs are my shin splints were finished. I was just blisters, and yeah, it wasn't pretty. My left leg, knee started to go. And I thought, how am I going to run another 50 kilometers here from this, for how I feel now? Right? So off we went, and we started, and it was brutal. It was brutal. And it took us, we finished the finish line. We got through there at 26 and a half hours.
Wow.
And it was hard. Hardest thing I've ever done.
But, but when you look back, man, you did it.
Did it, right? Like, and so I think people looking at success, which is what I hope they're getting out of this podcast, is success is like doing hard stuff and overcoming it. There were times, so onto the entrepreneur journey, of the Plan B journey, is there are going to be times where you're at the 83-kilometer mark and it's 4 a.m. in the morning and you're hungry and you're hurting and it's painful and no one's around.
Right.
Except for maybe your spouse and a friend, or your support group. But if you move through those really dark times and keep going, like Winston Churchill says, if you find yourself in hell, keep going. It's what we did. You come out the other end and you run towards the finish line. There's all your friends and family giving you high fives and cameramen, and they yell your name and you get these medals, and it's this amazing experience of I've overcome. And that's the same as entrepreneurship. It will happen if you stick with it.
Absolutely. So where do people find your book?
So great question. If you want to grab a copy of my book, they go to moneygrowsontreesbook.com. Yep, quite a long one, but moneygrowsontreesbook.com. But they can also follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Lloyd James Ross with 2 L's. The second one is silent. Lloyd James Ross. And on Facebook, Lloyd J. Ross. You can have me on Facebook, Instagram. But that's where they get the book.
All right. And as far as your courses and your programs are concerned, where do they find those?
Yeah, so if someone wants to put a plan B in place and they're just like, I don't know where to start, but I want to be online and I want to stay in my job and I just want some extra income, that's what we really specialize in. And you can find, if you just send me a DM, a direct message on Instagram, I'll show you where to go for that. It's called The Side Hustle Secret. There is a Facebook group. It's about 3,000 people in there. You can jump in. The courses goes through, after you read the book, the courses get you actually investing, saving and investing. And I've got an investing mastery course, which teaches you how to build the Plan C income. And if you want that course, all you have to do is when you buy the book, there's an option to buy the course as well.
Awesome. Well, Lloyd, this was great, hearing about your life story, your entrepreneurial journey, all the ups and downs, and what you're doing in terms of giving back, from all that you've received. That's really inspiring and tremendous. Before I let you go, one takeaway for the listeners, anything that you'd like to share?
Okay, I think for the listeners, because it seems so far away sometimes, the entrepreneur journey and the freedom that people want. But the idea of it is you've got to start where you stand. And for me, I was working in a job just like everyone else. I was not on tremendous. I mean, it wasn't on massive income. I think I was earning about 70,000 a year. It wasn't like I was ordained to be a millionaire. I remember just being unsatisfied. So my last part for anyone listening would be, if you're in a job and you're unsatisfied, don't leave. You don't have to just leave, right? That's risky. You can build your plan B income while you're there. That's how entrepreneurs begin. They don't just leave their job. They build it while they're there. So build it, find something that is simple to run from your phone online, residual base, so you can build a recurring income stream, and spend your evenings and weekends, especially while you're young, on this. Doesn't matter any age, but do this while you're in your job. And when it gets to a point where it's going quite successful, then have some thought processes around, maybe I should go part-time job in it. So transition out of it. Don't be in such a rush to just jump out of the plane with no parachute.
Absolutely.
That's not what I'd suggest. So there you go. I think that's a good tip for everyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lloyd. It's been very nice talking to you, hearing your story, very inspiring, and we hope to keep in touch.
Thanks, Rajiv. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be on your podcast.
Thank you.